in this one. Who cares? I don't care. What's that person? It's 9%. Did I not send? Videos. Uh. See if this voice does me.
Been involved in controversies or had many.
He's good. Yo, what the guy bought name?
Yo, welcome ladies and gentlemen to yet another iceberg video by yours truly. And so today we'll be coming over the disturbing Wikipedia articles iceberg by Aria Crown, which just as it sounds is an iceberg covering various disturbing, strange, and generally messed up articles that can be found on the site, with of course quite a few bonus entries along the way. With that being said, this iceberg really is something totally different with each entry, so you never quite know what you're gonna get. Some of it can be quite curious, and some of it is quite tragic, while others are truly demented and extremely dark. Bearing that all in mind, please sit back, relax, and let's dive into the disturbing Wikipedia articles iceberg together, shall we? Wikipedia, a place of knowledge, of history, of humanity. Our journey through this site's darkest recesses is sure to be less thematic than our other ventures, however, since unlike DeviantArt or YouTube, this site is far more fractured, made up of collective information. Yet still, you and I find ourselves at the front door of a school, one without a soul to speak of, and yet far larger than any normal academy. Come, let's explore its halls together. The Hitler game. Okay, so we're starting out with an entry that's actually less of a
This is the first one.
specific article and more so a meta game of sorts that one can play on Wikipedia.com. According to the Urban Dictionary, the Hitler Wikipedia game can be described as, quote, a game with the object of reaching Hitler's Wikipedia page by clicking on random article, then clicking links in that article to get to other articles, until eventually you can find a link to Adolf Hitler's page. There are rules against using the Find on this page option in your browser, and there is sometimes a time limit on how long you can spend on each page. Your score is determined by your number of clicks before clicking on Hitler's page. If you reach Hitler's page by clicking on random article, you win the game forever and are probably Jesus, unquote. On that note, you can actually play a variation of this game called the Jesus game, where you, well, do the same thing, but with Jesus. And I suppose you could probably play any variation of this game with just about any popular figure in history. Chick-culling. Chick-culling, as the Wikipedia article notes, quote, is the process of separating and killing unwanted male and unhealthy female chicks for which the intensive animal farming industry has no use. It occurs in all industrialized egg production, whether free-range, organic, or battery cage. However, some certified pasture-raised egg farms are taking steps to eliminate the practice entirely. Worldwide, around 7 billion male chicks are culled each year in the egg industry. This is done because male chicks do not lay eggs, and only those in breeding programs are required to fertilize eggs. They are considered redundant to the egg-laying industry, and are usually killed shortly after being sexed, which occurs just days after they are conceived or after they hatch. Some methods of culling that do not involve anesthetics include cervical dislocation, asphyxiation by carbon dioxide, and maceration using a high-speed grinder. Maceration is the primary method in the United States. Maceration is often the preferred method over carbon dioxide asphyxiation in Western countries, as it is often considered as more humane due to the death occurring immediately or within a second, unquote. And there are several videos online, as well as pictures of this process being done to baby chicks, but I'll spare you from seeing the gritty details. It's one of those hard truth realities when it comes to food production of this kind, but is, nevertheless, disturbing to see and face. John Zegras. John Zegras, according to the Wikipedia article, is, quote, the reported name of a man detained in 1960 in Japan for alleged document fabrication. He was dubbed as the Mystery Man by Japanese news at the time, and became a prototype for some urban legends, unquote. And as noted, there is a real incident and story connected with this, as well as more urban legends connected with it. So, starting with the actual story of the incident, quote, in October of 1959, a man recorded as John Allen Kucher Zegras, 36, entered Japan with his Korean wife. There, months after, he was arrested by the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, suspected of identity fraud. He tried to cash a 200,000 yen check and a $140, around 50,400 yen at the time, traveler's check at the Japanese office of Chase Manhattan Bank, and 100,000 yen at the Japanese office of Bank of Korea. According to the records, Zegras said he was born in the US, moved to the UK through Czechoslovakia and Germany, and attended high school there. During World War II, he was a pilot in the Royal Air Force and was once captured by the Germans. After the war, he lived in Latin America. Later, he became a spy for the Americans in South Korea, served as a pilot in Thailand and Vietnam, and after that, he was assigned by the United Arab Republic. He arrived in Japan for a secret mission, which included recruiting Japanese military volunteers for the United Arab Republic. Eventually, after contacting the mentioned countries, it was ruled that the information was not based on facts, and the seals in his pseudo-passport were proven to be fabricated. On the 10th of August 1960, Tokyo District Court reviewed the case and sentenced Zegras to 1 year in prison. After the announcement, he tried to commit suicide by cutting his veins with a piece of glass secretly brought to him to the court. After his release, Zegras was deported from Japan to Hong Kong, from where he was recorded to an entire region. His wife was deported to South Korea, unquote. And that's the true story of this incident. And while the man's fake story is indeed kind of interesting, it ultimately just proved to be someone committing identity fraud. However, this would somehow, through word of mouth and reports by the news, be turned into an urban legend about a man from another dimension, and that he had a passport from a fictional country, and how he apparently disappeared a day after being questioned, with no one knowing what happened to him. This is, of course, all just an urban legend and lies at this point, but it is nevertheless the story that lived on from this incident, and would come to be shared all throughout the internet, with the story evolving from a man from another dimension, to a time traveler, to a possible alien, etc, etc. Poe Toaster. Poe Toaster is the nickname given to an unidentified person who, according to the Wikipedia article, is noted as, quote, for several decades, paid an annual tribute to the American author Edgar Allan Poe by visiting the cenotaph marking his original grave in Baltimore, Maryland, in the early hours of January 19th, Poe's birthday. The shadowy figure, dressed in black with a wide-brimmed hat and white scarf, would pour himself a glass of cognac and raise a toast to Poe's memory, then vanish into the night, leaving 3 roses in a distinctive arrangement and the unfinished bottle of liquor. Onlookers gathered annually in hopes of glimpsing the elusive toaster, who did not seek publicity and was rarely seen or photographed. According to eyewitness reports and notes accompanying offerings in later years, the original toaster made the annual visitation from sometime in the 1930s, though no report appeared on print until 1950s, until his death in 1998, after which the tradition was passed on to a quote-unquote son. Controversial statements were then made in some of the notes left by the post-1998 toaster, the supposed son. And in 2010, there was no visit by the toaster, with absences between 2000.
God damn it.
Yo. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, recruiting Japanese military volunteers for the United Arab Republic, which by the he was dubbed and himself a glass of cognac, roses, and a distinctive arrangement including offerings in later years. The original toaster made the annual visitation from sometime in the 1930s, though no report appeared on print until 1950s, until his death in 1998, after which the tradition was passed on to a quote-unquote son. Controversial statements were then made in some of the notes left by the post-1998 toaster, the supposed son. And in 2010, there was no visit by the toaster, with absences between 2011 and 2012 signaling an end to the 75-year tradition. However, in 2016, the Maryland Historical Society selected a new toaster to revive the tradition, unquote, and so has gone on to be a tradition ever since. And here is one of the only supposed photographs of the original Poe toaster. There was never any concerted effort to find out the identity of the Poe toaster, and while there have been many claims from people being the original over the years, nothing has ever been known for sure, and thus it remains a mystery. Though I personally find it funny that this is probably just some really big Edgar Allan Poe fan that was sort of doing a bit of a LARP, you know, going out to a cemetery, drinking cognac, dressed in black, doing goth shit, you know? Until finally someone happened to notice him, and yeah, a true legend, to be sure. Euthanasia Coaster. This is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a hypothetical roller coaster design that would, fucking end your life. Quote, the Euthanasia Coaster is the name given to a hypothetical steel roller coaster designed with the sole purpose of killing its passengers. The concept was conceived in 2010 and made into a scale model by Lithuanian artist Julijonas Urbonas, a PhD candidate at the Royal College of Art in London. Urbonas, who has experience as an amusement park employee, stated that the goal of the concept roller coaster was to take the lives with elegance and euphoria. The concept design of the layout begins with a steep, angled lift that takes riders up 500 meters or 1,600 feet to the top, a climb which would take a few minutes to complete, allowing the user to contemplate their life. For comparison, the tallest roller coaster in the world is King Ka at 193 meters or 456 feet. From there, the user may exit the coaster. If they do not, they would have some time to say their last words and press a button to continue to a 500 meter, or again 1,600 feet drop, which would take the train to 360 kilometers per hour, close to its terminal velocity, before flattening out and speeding into the first of its 7 slightly clothoid inversions. Each inversion would be of a smaller diameter than the last, to maintain the lethal 10 Gs of force on the passengers as the train loses speed. After a sharp right-hand turn, the train would enter a straight track that goes back to the station, where the dead can be unloaded and new passengers can board, unquote. Quite the, morbid description, I must say. And in case you're curious about how exactly this would make you exit the game of life, well, it would happen through prolonged cerebral hypoxia, or insufficient supply of oxygen to your brain. The ride's 7 inversions would inflict 10 Gs of force on its passengers for 60 seconds, causing G-force related symptoms starting with gray out through tunnel vision to blackout, G-lock or G-force induced loss of consciousness, and eventually death. It really is a roller coaster so intense that it kills you. No tricks about it. And in case you're wondering, they would have the roller coaster go twice around just in case you somehow managed to live through all of that. Mind you, this coaster was never actually built and was all purely hypothetical design at work, but it is still nonetheless quite the haunting idea to take a ride on a roller coaster and come back dead by its end. It's also kinda cool. Black Eyes Children. This entry refers to the urban legend originating from America of children or some sort of creature or paranormal entity of some kind that looks like a child ages 6 to 16 with pale skin and black eyes who have reportedly been seen hitchhiking or begging or are encountered on doorsteps of residential homes. Quote, while tabloid coverage of the creatures has claimed the tales of black-eyed children have existed since the 1980s, most sources indicate that the legend originated from the 1996 postings written by Texas reporter Brian Bethel on a ghost-related mailing list relating to alleged encounters with black-eyed kids. Bethel describes encountering 2 such children in Abilene, Texas of 1996, and claims that a second person had a similar unrelated encounter in Portland, Oregon. Bethel's stories have become regarded as classic examples of creepypasta and gained such popularity that she published an FAQ just to keep up with the demand for more info about the new urban legend. In 2012, Brian Bethel told his story on reality TV series Monsters and Mysteries in America. He wrote a follow-up article for the Abilene Reporter News describing his experience and maintaining his belief that it was all legitimate, unquote. And yeah, these black-eyed kids became almost like popular creepypasta characters or entities that would show up often in those true scary story videos and Reddit posts that were almost always just creepypastas under the guise of being at least told within the realm of reality, rather than, you know, a scary video game possessing your TV, or the tragic backstory of Harold the Teenage Killer, you know, sort of average creepypasta stuff. Actually makes me wonder if there's a true scary story iceberg out there somewhere, similar to the creepypasta ones. Cute aggression. Have you ever looked at something so cute that you kind of just want to squeeze it? Well, that is in essence what this is. Quote, cute aggression, or playful aggression, is superficially aggressive behavior caused by seeing something cute, such as a young human or animal. People experiencing cute aggression may grit their teeth, clench their fists, or feel the urge to bite, pinch, or squeeze something they perceive as cute, unquote. Another example of this, as noted in the article, is when people say to their babies, "I just want to eat you up," or "pinch your cheeks," that sort of thing. Quote, playful aggression is a type of dimorphous display in which a positive experience elicits expressions usually associated with negative emotions. This behavior occurs more commonly in individuals who experience dimorphous emotions across a range of situations, and may help to regulate emotions by balancing an overwhelming positive emotion with a negative response. Intense positive feelings often produce hybrid categorically positive and typical negative expressions. This is commonly witnessed in situations in which a person is so overwhelmed by happiness that they begin to tear up or even cry. Such regulation of emotion has been coined dimorphous expression, unquote. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Hallucinogen persisting perception disorder. This entry refers to, as noted by the article itself, quote, a non-psychotic disorder in which a person experiences apparent lasting or persistent visual hallucinations or perpetual distortions after a previous use of drugs, including but not limited to psychedelics, dissociatives, entactogens, THC, and SSRIs. The hallucinations and perpetual changes consist of, but are not limited to, visual snow, trails, and afterimage light fractals on flat surfaces, intensified colors, altered motion perception, pareidolia, micropsia, and macropsia, unquote. Those last three, by the way, in order to expand upon it a bit more, are pareidolia, or basically the tendency for us to perceive an image onto something that's not there, kind of like looking at an electric outlet and seeing two little eyes and a mouth, or looking at a car and seeing the lights as eyes, etc. And then micropsia and macropsia are the mind perceiving objects as smaller or larger than they are respectively. The effects of HPPD can actually happen to people who have never actually taken drugs though as well, and some of you might be familiar with the term floaters or visual snow as an example. Blue Whale Challenge. So this one is rather dark and is a bit of a rabbit hole in of itself. To start, quote, the Blue Whale Challenge is a social network phenomenon dating from 2016 that is claimed to exist in several countries. It is a game reportedly consisting of a series of tasks assigned to players by administrators over a 50-day period. Initially innocuous before introducing elements of self-harm, and the final challenge requiring the player to Blue Whale first attracted news coverage in May of 2016 in an article in the Russian newspaper Novaya Gazeta that linked many unrelated child to membership of Group F57, on the Russian-based VK social network. A wave of moral panic swept Russia. However, the piece was later criticized for attempting to make a casual link where none existed, and none of the suits were found to be a result of the group's activities. Claims of suits connected to the game have been reported worldwide, but none have been confirmed, unquote. That's the basics. And in case you're wondering, no one really knows the reason why it's called the Blue Whale Challenge or game, with one of the more popular theories being that it could be in reference to beaching, where whales become stranded on beaches and die, but seems a bit of a stretch. The game was supposedly played via different social media platforms, with the admin of the game giving the player instructions over the next 50 days, with it at first being simple stuff like wake up at this time or watch a horror movie, and eventually going into full-on fucked up shit as it went along. This whole thing caused quite the hysteria, as noted before. Quote, while many experts suggest Blue Whale was originally a sensationalized hoax, they believe that it is likely that the phenomenon had led to instances of imitative self-harming and copycat groups, leaving vulnerable children at risk of cyberbullying and online shaming, unquote. In other words, while it may have started as a scary urban legend that people panicked over without any real evidence of it actually existing, it eventually did foster real events inspired by the story. Sadly, regardless of there being no evidence of these things, several suits from everywhere from the United States to Spain to Italy to Brazil, all over would be said to have been linked to the game. But again, there was never any real evidence of this being the case. The Blue Whale Challenge seemed to have become a bit of a boogeyman for people, and perhaps a bit of a lampshade to the actual sad, terrible reality that just happened before them, which was young people committing suicide. Nevertheless, there have been some arrests connected to this game, again due to nasty, disgusting people getting inspired by the crazy story to then actually use it to try and harm or groom children. Quote, in 2016, Philip Budikin, a 21-year-old former psychology student who was expelled from his university, claimed that he invented the game in 2013. According to Budikin, his purpose is to clean society of biological waste, as he intended to clean society from individuals who were deemed as having no value and considered as burdens. Although originally claiming innocence and stating he was just having fun, Budikin was arrested and held in Kresty Prison, St. Petersburg, and in May 2016 pled guilty to inciting at least 16 teenage girls to commit suicide. He was later convicted on 2 counts of inciting suicide of a minor. Commentators such as Benjamin Radford had pointed out that sensationalized stories in world news regarding the involvement of Budikin have all linked back to just 2 Russian sources, with tabloid news outlets replicating the same information without elaboration, unquote. It's clear Budikin isn't actually the creator of this game, since for all intents and purposes it's just a big fucking hoax. But he is an edgy piece of shit and was sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison, all the same. In another case of someone being arrested, quote, June 2017, postman Ilya Sidorov was arrested in Moscow, also accused of setting up a Blue Whale group to encourage children to self-harm and ultimately die by suicide. He claimed to have persuaded 32 children to join this group and follow his commands, unquote. When trying to find out more info about this case, I found that he was ultimately found at least guilty of trying to coax a 14-year-old girl to end her life, and after she failed to do so, attempting to extort money from her as punishment, to which his punishment was hard labor at a penal colony. For how long, I couldn't seem to find any concrete info on. Finally, quote, in June 2018, 22-year-old Russian financial analyst Nikita Niranov was arrested for allegedly masterminding the Blue Whale game. Niranov is suspected of grooming 10 underage girls in order to bring them to suicide, 2 of whom, aged 14 and 17, are known to have survived. As a financial analyst, Niranov has been described as very smart, computer expert who held a large amount of contempt for teenagers, believing that they were wicked and deserved to die. Police reports claim that Niranov's involvement in the Blue Whale game was his hobby, unquote. I had a very hard time finding any follow-up info on this one. If any of you are aware of the fate of Nikita, and if he was found guilty of any of this, please please let me know in the comments below. Something strange too is when researching into any of these cases, all the headlines address all three of these separate individuals as the true mastermind behind the Blue Whale game, all being erroneous for the sake of more catchy headlines, I suppose. But that's just old news media sites for ya. Can never really trust them. Simple as that. This man. Now, I have covered this one a bit in my creepypasta iceberg a while back, but to quickly go over the info in the wiki article. Quote, "This man is a mysterious individual who has purportedly appeared in the dreams of numerous people around the world since 2006, yet his real-world identity remains unknown. In 2008, Italian sociologist and marketer Andrea Nutella created a website called Ever Dream This Man that focused on this phenomenon. According to the website, the first individual to report dreaming this man was a patient of a psychiatrist in New York City in 2006, and 4 other patients of the same psychiatrist also recognized the same face. The website received over 9,000 accounts from people who claimed to have encountered this man in their dreams, sharing their stories and drawings. Various theories were proposed to explain this man's appearance, ranging from mundane to supernatural, but none were sustained by evidence or investigation. The website gained attention from the press and online users in October of 2009 and became a viral sensation. This man's notoriety spawned several internet memes that spoofed flyers of the website, references in films and TV shows like The X-Files and the manga series bi-weekly Shonen magazine. It eventually came out that this man was a hoax and was originally a guerrilla marketing campaign for Nutella's advertising agency. Nutella admitted that she had fabricated the whole story and that he had based the original sketch of this man on a photo of his father when he was young. Nutella said that he was inspired by the concept of dream invasion, which he had encountered in some movies and books, and that he wanted to explore the power of the internet to create and spread urban legends and collective myths, unquote. And yeah, that's pretty much well covers it. There are some creepypastas and the like connected with this photo and the story, but ultimately they are just that, stories. Still, it is a pretty cool concept. A person who no one has ever met appearing in multiple people's dreams, their visage burned into their minds. 2019 Polar Bear Invasion. Quote, "In February 2019, the Russian archipelago of Novaya Zemlya in the Arctic Ocean experienced a mass invasion of polar bears. Dozens of polar bears were seen trying to enter homes, civic buildings, and inhabited areas. The Arkhangelsk Oblast authorities declared a state of emergency on the 16th of February 2019. According to the local report agency, at least 52 bears entered the area near Belushia Guba, the main settlement of the island. Footage shows the polar bears looking for food in the rubbish at a local dump," unquote. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. A bunch of polar bears started breaking into people's houses and stealing their garbage. Polybius. Now this is a famous one, and one that most of you probably know by now, I'd bet. But nevertheless, I shall quickly cover the basics for the few of you that don't know about this famous urban legend. Quote, "Polybius is a fictitious 1981 arcade game from an urban legend. The legend describes the game as part of a government-run crowdsourced psychology experiment based in Portland, Oregon. Gameplay supposedly produced intense psychoactive and addictive effects in the player. These few publicly staged arcade machines were said to have been visited periodically by men in black for the purpose of data mining the machines and analyzing these effects. Supposedly, all of these Polybius arcade machines then disappeared from the arcade market. This urban legend has persisted in video game journalism and through continued interest, and it has inspired video games of the same name," unquote. That's the basics, and obviously from there, the legend became so popular that oftentimes at nearly any show, film, or cartoon that has a random arcade scene, there is sure to be a fake Polybius machine somewhere in the background. It's an interesting concept, a game designed by the government to test its players through gameplay, that is said to be hypnotic and addictive. But yeah, ultimately, it's just a very popular urban legend, nothing more. Deleted articles with freaky titles. As the entry suggests, this is about Wikipedia articles that have since been deleted that have rather ominous titles, making one wonder what exactly could be found within them. There are quite a few funny ones here as well, with the whole Wikipedia page being dedicated to documenting them. A few standouts I found by just quickly browsing through the page included Adolf Rizzler, Ass Full of Knife, Church of Sonic the Hedgehog, Dead Prostitutes in Popular Culture, Duck Raping, Gaping Anus, How Do I Stop My Son from Looking at Pikachu Porn, and the list goes on. Green Children of Woolpit. Starting off tier 2, we have a rather old tale. Quote, the legend of the Green Children of Woolpit concerns two children of unusual skin color who reportedly appeared in the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England, sometime in the 12th century, perhaps during the reign of King Stephen.
No hesitation.
Greenville, we about to get this show started. Now, the first member of the 85 South Show. You may know him as Brother Knowledge. You might have seen him on the 85 South Show. You might have seen him on MTV Wildin' Out. You might have seen him touring the whole country. He is the coldest dressed man in comedy. His style is impeccable. And he got the freestyle to match. He's from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. He is affectionately known as Tawanda's son. Greenville, make some noise. We got Chico Bean in the house tonight. Keep that energy going. Keep that energy going. The next member of the 85 South Show. He is definitely the coldest, craziest in the group. You might have seen him on social media. He took his hustle to another level. He started doing the comedy clubs. He went to the theaters. He went to the arenas. He on TV right now. You can see him on MTV. You can see him on BET. You can see him in the movies. He's from the west side of Atlanta. We call him Loose Legs. Greenville. We got DC Young Fly in the house. Greenville, we're gonna get this show started. I need you to turn it up just one more notch for me. I got the third and final member of the 85 South Show. He needs no introduction, but we're gonna give him one anyway. He is a comedic genius. You might have seen him on MTV. He's the only man who can get fired from Wildin' Out, but he's so cold they had to bring him back. You might have seen him on BET. You might have seen him in the movies. You're gonna see him on this stage here tonight. He is Mississippi's favorite son, the magnificent one. Ladies, Carlos Miller is in the building tonight. Now Greenville, one last time. If you're ready to get this show started, somebody say, hell yeah! It is a privilege and an honor to introduce the return of the Ghetto Legends Tour. Greenville, I need y'all to give it up for Chico B, DC Young Fly, and Carlos Miller. This is the 85 South